Tonight, victim identified. Jesse Twain's body was found in a burnt-out car last month. Recovering. A Dawson Creek firefighter is healing after being struck by a vehicle. And not running. The chief of the Doig River First Nation will not run for re-election. Good evening and thank you very much for joining us. We begin tonight with a man reported missing by the Fort St. John RCMP has been identified after a body was discovered in a burnt-out vehicle near Farmington. Back on October the 13th, police discovered the remains of Jesse Twain in a silver Mazda 6 on 251 Road near the Kiskatinaw River. 3 days after Twain's body was discovered, police said it wasn't clear who was on the inside of the vehicle or how they were killed. Sources close to the investigation tell CJDC-TV News that Twain's DNA had to be matched with that of a family member in order to identify him. Days after the discovery, police said all indications suggest Twain was murdered. The Fort St. John RCMP then requested the public's help in locating Twain. Mounties saying at the time the 29-year-old from Edmonton was last seen around October 10th in the Fort St. John area. A press release said his family and Mounties had reason to be concerned for his well-being. Now, it's not clear at this point what Twain was doing in the Fort St. John area or why he was murdered. If you have any information on Jesse Twain and the events leading up to his death, you are being asked to contact your local police detachment. Well, the Dawson Creek firefighter, Captain Brooks Gower, was hit by a pickup truck on Wednesday. Now his wife Trina says they have been on an emotional roller coaster since the accident. Trina says Brooks is no longer in critical condition. She says when Brooks heard his condition was improving, well, he started asking about the Toronto Blue Jays game and he pepped right up. Brooks was hit by a vehicle on Highway 97 South near Groundbirch after the fire department was called to the scene of an accident around 7 in the morning. Trina says he has 8 broken ribs and 5 broken vertebrae. His 2 broken legs and 1 broken arm have also been surgically repaired. She says Brooks is expected to walk again, which is an absolute miracle. That morning, Trina says the weather was atrocious with freezing rain and thick fog, and she wants to remind everyday citizens to be more aware on the roads. She adds, if everyone would increase their alertness by 10 to 20%, accidents like this could be avoided. Trina also wants to thank the community for their incredible support. She says good people are everywhere, and she sees it every second. Well, Chief Trevor McAdahay of the Doig River First Nation announcing he will not be running again for chief during the upcoming election. Chief McAdahay says he wants to thank everyone for their support during his time as chief. He was first elected back in 2014 and served as a councillor for 7 years prior to that. The First Nation says Chief McAdahay was committed to protecting treaty rights while fully participating in the local economy. The chief says it's now time to give back to his family. And he adds, he'll continue to lead by example, and if the nation ever calls on him again, he will be there. The next elections take place on November the 20th, 2027. Well, the power company Inver Energy proposing a wind energy project 21 kilometers northeast of Tumbler Ridge. The Hourglass Wind Energy Center could potentially generate 200 to 250 megawatts of renewable electric power. It could include 32 to 45 wind turbines and could power up to 48,000 homes. The project is planned for an area off of Highway 52 near Hourglass Road. The company says the location was picked due to a strong, reliable winds in the Peace region. Company officials planning to submit the project to the BC Hydro 2025 call for power for a potential purchase agreement. If approved, the project is slated to begin operating in 2030. Provincial and federal politicians have agreed to table a task force to help prop up the softwood lumber industry. It comes in the face of American fees and tariffs topping 50%. The province is pushing for more federal support at a forestry summit being held in Vancouver. The Premier says the softwood sector is one of the largest employers and contributors to our provincial GDP. David Eby says he's confident the federal government understands that. Well, critics have also blamed mismanagement and bad provincial policy for part of the problem.
In Campbell River, for example, 3 million cubic meters of timber that's permitted, ready to go, but in the current economic situation with the United States, it doesn't make sense to harvest. So these are big challenges. We know also that we have to be faster on permitting, and we're doing that work as well.
This is a critical industry to the fabric of the whole country. We see British Columbia, of course, is a dominant player in Canada in this industry. That's why we thought it was important for us to hear directly from the Premier, from his government, and from representatives of the workers in the industry.
And the political leaders at the conference in Vancouver say they will get to work on the new measures in the next few weeks, not months. The Premier was also asked today whether homeowners in Richmond impacted by a landmark court ruling should have to continue to pay property taxes while the case is being appealed and the ownership of their property remains in question. The Cowichan tribe's decision granted Aboriginal title over 750 acres of land along the Fraser River. The band has repeatedly insisted that it does not want to overturn private property titles, but residents are still concerned about their ability to obtain mortgages and even resell their properties, raising questions about what they're actually worth.
And why people are anxious, I would be anxious. But I want to reassure people we are going to court. We're bringing forward any information that we have. Currently, to date, we don't have information that banks are reluctant to loan in relation to these properties. It would be helpful for us if that is in fact the case to be able to get that information from homeowners. People still own their properties. You still are able to sell your properties.
A long legal battle is expected, with the Attorney General anticipating that the case could end up in the Supreme Court of Canada. BC's toxic drug crisis claimed 158 lives in September, that according to the BC Coroner's Service. The death toll is the fewest for the month of September since the year 2020, but it still means an average of 5.3 British Columbians died every day. And it appears more people aged 18 and younger are now dying from toxic drugs. So far this year, 20 youth deaths have been reported compared to 17 reported in September of 2024. A trial is started today for the man accused in a fatal shooting of an RCMP constable, Rick O'Brien. 27-year-old Nicholas Bellemare is facing 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder with a firearm. It stems from an incident back in September of 2023 where O'Brien was killed and another officer was shot. It happened when police were executing a search warrant in Coquitlam related to a drug investigation originating in Maple Ridge. Bellemare was also shot and wounded during the incident, and BC's police watchdog was called in to investigate the actions of the police officers. Well, there's a push for changes to the National Amber Alert system following the disappearance of a 6-year-old boy near the BC-Alberta border. Friends and community members came together to raise awareness for Darius's Law and to show support for the young boy and his family. Darius McDougall went missing in the Crow's Nest Pass back on September the 21st while camping with his family. Search and rescue crews spent 11 days looking in the area, but were eventually forced to call off the search. Well, now a petition is aiming to reform how missing children cases are handled.
I never realized how rigid our Amber Alert criteria is. And so this whole story, it made me privy and made me research that, and I realized there's a dangerous gap in our system and we need to close that gap now.
The online petition has more than 14,000 signatures. Organizers plan to bring the petition to Parliament in Ottawa to get the current law updated. It's being called the silent killer, and now homeowners in British Columbia are being urged to test their homes for radon gas. The colorless, odorless, radioactive gas is the second highest cause of lung cancer in Canada, estimated to cause more than 3,000 deaths across the country per year. A joint campaign from the BC Real Estate Association and the BC Lung Foundation aims to direct British Columbians to radonkills.ca/BC. That's where they can find crucial information about how to test for it in their homes. Now, according to the organizations, BC's interior has some of the highest residential radon levels in the country and is the highest between October and April. Well, the Prime Minister has warned Canadians tough choices and sacrifices will be needed because of American tariffs. And as CTV's Abigail Beeman reports, Canadians should expect some deep cuts in tomorrow's budget.
In the pre-budget day new shoe buying tradition, the finance minister got hands-on at a factory, underlining build Canadian, buy Canadian.
The budget tomorrow is all about, it's an investment budget. It's a generational shift.
The government now only stressing investment.
C'est un budget d'austérité et d'investissement.
While in early September, just in French, Mark Carney also said austerity. Late October, a reference to sacrifices.
We won't transform our economy easily or in a few months. It will take some sacrifices.
Pounced on by opposition.
All our young conservatives are fighting for homes, jobs, and hope, and they refuse to sacrifice their future.
We will not support an austerity approach.
There will be big spending in that budget, which goes against, I think, the logic of austerity. So there is a kind of tension here.
Desjardins economists predict the deficit will hit $75 billion.
I don't think you can characterize a $75 billion deficit as an austerity budget or austerity deficit.
There are obviously unanswered questions about just what is getting cut. Public service jobs most discussed. And the government has also promised to maintain some big-ticket programs and spend more on defense.
Austerity will mean different things to different people. And those who are most impacted will see the austerity. You can see public servants who are going to be impacted will view this as an austerity budget. The unions will view this as an austerity budget.
The Liberals are 3 seats shy of a majority, meaning they need some help from the opposition parties in order to pass this budget in the confidence vote ahead or risk heading to an election.
Premier David Eby says the province of BC has abandoned plans for a series of anti-tariff ads aimed at American audiences.
So we've committed to the federal government that when the time comes to be speaking directly to Americans, we'll do it in partnership with them. We will not be running the ads by ourselves. We'll make sure that we're in line with strategy going forward.
BC's decision comes after an anti-tariff ad campaign by the Ontario government infuriated U.S. President Donald Trump, who then canceled trade talks with Canada. The federal government is initiating dispute settlement proceedings against Stellantis. It's a result of the company's decision to shift production of their Jeep Compass to the United States. The auto manufacturer announced the move from Ontario last month. CTV's Michael Couture now on what that means.
Industry Minister Melanie Joly says today's action is based on the belief that automaker Stellantis did violate the billion-dollar contract signed with the federal government.
If you make promises and then walk away, you will be held accountable.
A blunt message for Stellantis from the federal government. Before being questioned by a parliamentary committee, the industry minister said Ottawa is going after the car maker.
We'll start the 30-day period of the formal dispute resolution process in order to bring back production at the Stellantis Brampton facility.
In October, Stellantis announced it was moving production of its Jeep Compass from its Brampton, Ontario plant to Illinois. In response, the government capped how many vehicles Stellantis and GM can import tariff-free into Canada. Going to the dispute resolution process could be risky, according to this trade lawyer, because the automaker could play hardball.
I think what they would say is, look, Canada, if you really want to do this, take this approach, then, we might give you your money back and say goodbye to you.
And your government committed thousands, millions, and billions.
In a sometimes combative exchange, Conservative members of the parliamentary committee demanded to know if the contract with Stellantis spelled out job commitments in Brampton. The documents related to the building of the battery plant in Windsor, obtained by CTV News, clearly state Nexstar Energy and Stellantis committed to creating and maintaining 2,500 jobs at that plant. The contract for the Brampton plant has not been released.
She could have been very clear if her government made a 3,000 job commitment for Brampton or a broader Canadian footprint agreement. She was not clear on that. That tells me there isn't one.
Minister Joly told the committee the car plants in Windsor and Brampton are linked, as are the contracts, adding MPs will be able to see that when the Brampton contract is presented at another committee. Mike Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
All right, please do stay tuned. Noah will be right back after the break with weather.